Career success is based on three key factors: performance, image, and exposure, according to a theory published by Harvey Coleman in 1996. It's probably not how you think about it though, because the performance, while being imperative, only accounts for 20% of the success. The other 80% is accounted for by the image and exposure. And what happens is we often are focused so much on our performance that we're not managing our image and exposure. And when you think about those who are considered to be rock star, easily promotable candidates, they're definitely managing their image and their exposure. So if this is something you're interested in learning more about, at the end of this video, I'll provide you with a step-by-step approach to integrating managing your performance, image, and exposure into your career efforts and your daily way of doing business. For the best strategies to manage your career and take it to the next level, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you can be advised when I post new content every Tuesday. I'm Christina dellisanti-Miller of Full Potential Realized, and I work for more than 20 years in big corporates consulting to and developing leaders. I've helped hundreds of women take their careers to the next level, in many cases beyond what they thought was possible. I want to talk about how I got really present to the importance of managing your image and your exposure. And I was working as an internal consultant in this line of business for about 5 years. And I was having a one-on-one with one of the most senior executives. And he said to me, "You're not doing anything." And I thought I misheard him. I was like, "Excuse me?" What? And he was like, "You're not doing anything." And I was like, "No, but I'm leading 4 teams and we're doing this, that, and the other thing. I'm facilitating this meeting with the executives every month. We have a whole agenda. We're executing on this, that, and the other thing." And he was like, "Yes, I know, you're not doing anything." So I said, "Okay." And I had to go back and think about it. Like, all the activity wasn't what he was pointing to. He was pointing to the results. So I said, "All right, let me get out the metrics," which I had never looked at. And so over this period of 5 years, the average increase, we had a 14-point scale that we measured across the company, the effects of this particular initiative. The average increase on that scale was 24 points, but some items had gone as high as 50 points above where they started in the beginning of the 5 years of the baseline. And most of the scores were above 75%. So I think pretty good results. So I started to publish this data set everywhere, and thank you, and look what we accomplished. And that changed the conversation. But what I really got was, to me, it seemed like obvious what was happening and what was changing over time, but I wasn't tooting my own horn. I felt like that was not a good use of my time. I should be focused on the deliverables. But in a vacuum, this executive, who maybe wasn't appreciative of what I was doing, created his own narrative and was maybe communicating that with others. So I really got like, okay, part of my job is to ensure that everybody is on the same page about what results I'm producing and aligning to what's important to them. Because the other piece of this is, what was my relationship like with him that I wasn't communicating with him in a way that was cognizant of what was important to him and linking my results to what he found important. Right? So that's the other piece of it. Not only was I not managing my image by understanding what the metrics were and promoting the results, I wasn't dealing with my exposure, which is, what are the relationships like with people? Who knows you and what do they know about you? And if I was building that relationship with him, my exposure to him would have been different, because I would have been talking to him about my results in the context of what I knew was important to him. Have you ever had a situation where you found out in a very abrupt or important way that you needed to do a better job of managing your image and your exposure? Comment in the comments below, yes, if it's happened to you, and if you're feeling generous, let us know how you dealt with it. I made myself a worksheet and I'm going to share it with you. I'll explain it, but if you want to just grab it, if you don't feel like taking notes, you can get it at fullpotentialrealized.com/PIE, PIE, which stands for Performance, Image, and Exposure. And it's a 3-step process. First, you're looking at your performance, obviously. What are the results that you're meant to deliver? How are they measured? The second part is, what do people know about you? Of those results, what's being communicated and how are you showcasing what impact you've had? And the third part is exposure. Who knows you? And what are the relationships like with those people? And are you building the relationships with the right people so that you can understand what's important to them and connect the dots? So here are the steps that I would propose. Okay, so let's talk about performance first. For performance, there's a couple pieces. The first piece is, what are the results that you're meant to deliver and how are they being measured by your key stakeholders? Because what you might think is important in the role might not be the same thing that's viewed as critical by the manager and other people who are receiving or recipients of your work or stakeholders of your work. So it's important to understand how they measure it. Second piece is, what are your routines that deliver those results? And then do you have a bunch of other routines that might be important to you but might not be supporting the delivery of those results? And if so, can you streamline those? Because one of the things is, we don't want to just put more stuff on your plate. We want to say, is there anything that can be streamlined? Is there anything that you're doing that's not mission critical that can be diverted, that time and energy, to focusing on image and exposure, which may help you with your performance but in a different way? So if there are things that you find that are not as value added to your stakeholders, they're not mission critical to you, how can you take some of that energy and divert it to your image and exposure, perhaps making this effort less frequently, maybe delegating it to somebody else, or maybe streamlining the process so it takes less time and energy. So with respect to your image, 3 things. The first piece is, what do you want to be known about you? Second piece is, how do you get that message out there? And third piece is, what feedback loops do you have in place to check that the message that you want to have known about your work is in fact being received? So this is something you can work on with your mentor or other trusted advisors, thinking about, how can I, who could be really interesting in this space is your marketing colleagues. I always think building relationships with other people is really interesting if you're talking to them about the work that they do. And so this is something that they do for a living. How do you apply the concepts that they use every day in managing customer experience and use that to manage your own press or your own image? So the exposure piece is around looking at your key stakeholders. Who are the people who are weighing in on your performance? Who are the recipients who are affected by your work? Who has something to say about how you're evaluated if you're considered promotable? And what's important to them? And what's your relationship like with them? So the thing to put in place here is, what are the routines where you're building your relationships with those people? What are the contact points? What is the conversation you're having? What's your messaging? And how are you finding out what's important to them so that you can link what they're doing in alignment? There's a great book that entrepreneurs love called The E-Myth, where they talk about working on your business as opposed to in your business. So if you were the owner of a pie shop, working on your business is like, what's my strategy? What pies am I going to make? How do I market it? How do I find out what customers think about it? Whereas working in your business is baking pies. So if you think about your business as whatever you do for a living, working in the business, and working on your business is kind of taking a step back. Like, imagine if you were an entrepreneur and what you do for a living is the product that you provide. It's interesting to think about what steps you would be taking to manage the business. So similar to entrepreneurs, it's easy to get sucked into the delivering of the results or the working in the business, but the most successful players are the ones who take a step back and also spend time working on the business, making sure that they're aligned strategically, understand what their customers think, and are delivering what their customers need. Assessing and managing your performance, image, and exposure is part of a bigger process for taking your career to the next level. If you're interested in learning more about that process, I have an 8-step system with a free training to walk you through it. You can get it at fullpotentialrealized.com/advance. Let me know what you think about it. Love to see your reaction. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thanks. I look forward to seeing you next time.